Happy Saturday morning, YouTube. So, some of you may know that I'm really sort of obsessed with the farmer's market. I absolutely love it. I love it so much. And a couple of summers ago, there was the most darling set of children that were selling all kinds of plants. Their dad was a botanist. And so I was completely so excited. I had to kind of try not to walk by their little stand because I was always buying their plants. But anyway, so I had bought this. It's a little tree, and you can kind of see it, and it acts as a tree. So like in the fall, the leaves actually die and they fall off, and then you hope that it comes back. Anyway, so because I didn't want this one to be lonely, I had bought a second one. And this is actually what it's supposed to look like on the top. I'm hoping you guys can see all those little. And so here it is. Oh my goodness, I didn't even notice that it had a little something going on down there. Look at that. Isn't that cute? Anyway, so being a plant lover like I am, because I am a massive plant lover, I didn't know I was a plant lover. But I have to say, sometimes I think I love my plants more than people. And that's terrible, minus my children, but maybe my closest friends and family. But I love plants so much. And and also in the plant world, there's this thing called perennials and annuals. And so it's sort of like these, like trees are generally something that are going to have length of life, longevity. But this one, it's not doing so good. And I'm not sure what to do. I just keep watering it and hope. And like its little trunk is like all shriveled up. Like its little trunk there is all shriveled up. And this one is like pretty firm. And so it makes me think that it's dead. And so I just keep watering it and hope that like, other things that go into hibernation, it might come back. But I don't know. And this I use as an example because it reminds me so much of our manifestations or our desires. Like, how long do we water an idea that is never going to come to fruition? Like, for example, I just decide, I wake up one day and I decide I think I want to become a ballerina. I can do all the ballet I want, and I am never going to excel in ballet. I'm just not. It's just not my thing. With a lot of things like that we desire, like, how long do we water an idea? That has been quite a dilemma for me. It's been quite a dilemma for me. So at my occupation right now, at my paying gig, I have this friend, and I just absolutely adore her. And her husband is a preacher. Well, actually, he's in the music ministry, but she's basically a preacher's wife. And she and I get to talking about things, and she talked about God's will. She talked about God's will, and I go back to this quite often. I did a very lengthy podcast about it that really didn't get a lot of people listening to it, but it was extremely pertinent. So I was raised a Roman Catholic, and so God's will for me was very, very specific. Was very specific as a woman, and I also equated God with my caretakers. I equated God with the way that I was treated by my parents, basically. And I think that we all do to some degree. We just don't know it. A lot of us are not aware of this. And then we tend to like carry these things down to our own children, these these ideas of these characteristics of God and these very, very small God's will. And if you view God as this really angry being in the sky who is jealous and is to be worshipped and is this, then God's will is pretty ominous. God's will can be really ominous and oppressive, actually. Like, for example, somebody who comes out as gay, and there's going to be a number of churches who would say that that is not God's will and try to convert them. Conversion therapy, I've heard it. I saw this little TikToker the other day, really, really cute guy, talking about what they did to him when they tried to converge him into a heterosexual. So what is God's will? Is God's will separate? And I suppose there can be parents, because I'm always going with this idea that I tend to generalize and think that like all parents are like me, but all parents may not be like me, and really want my children to go after what it is they want, not what I want. And there may be a number of parents who really want their children to go after what they want and not what their child wants. But so at some point, I was asking God. I was asking God for direction, like which way do I go? And what was coming to mind was actually the sound of her voice to the oracle in the Matrix. And it would say, make up your own damn mind. Make up your own damn mind. What is it that you want? What do you want? What do you want with your life? What do you want to do? Where do you want to be? What adventure do you want to go on? What mountain do you want to climb? Do you want to be in a relationship? Do you not want to be in a relationship? What type of person would you like to be in a relationship with? Make up your mind. And so perhaps there is this fusing of will. Because if we are all aspects of God, if we are indeed aspects of God, then is there actually a separate will? Which goes into, like, people who would will something bad. Like, how could it be God's will that somebody, would rape someone or do something horrible or murder or whatever we consider to be bad? But if God is a God of yes, which I believe to be, which is love itself, free will is just intrinsic in that. It's just intrinsic in that. And if we make choices against our better life, which would be a life of joy rather than a life of hate and destruction, because we're going to, this is where I think that this term, like people try to use the term karma, comes from, which I don't necessarily believe in it as a whole concept, but it's sort of like you reap what you sow. You live by the sword, you die by the sword. If we have these intentions of ill will toward others, it can come back on us because we're living in that state of consciousness. We're living in that, on that frequency of consciousness. And so I think that the outcome for our lives, if we are making our choices out of love or out of fear, are going to result in very, very different experiences on the planet. There's my little soapbox about that. But back to my sometimes I go to, like, I don't understand why something has not come into my physicality. I just don't understand it when I have already done the work, as Abraham Hicks would say. And so, and sometimes I'm patiently waiting, and sometimes I'm not patiently waiting. Sometimes I get discouraged. I don't understand. But I do know that I'm getting better at it. I do know that I'm heading in the correct direction. But I wanted to put a plug in really quick before I go. I am starting a group. I'm calling it the Thrival Talk group. I actually pretty much finished my second book. It's called Blonde Hair Girl Thrival Guide, 4 Steps to Your Ideal Life. And I'm doing groups, Zooming groups on Tuesday nights. So if you are interested in that, go to my email, which I think is I'm pretty sure it's in my YouTube link. Anyway, I appreciate you all listening, and I will be back. Love you guys.